Yes. So you're saying there is that distrust there. Mr. Murray,
Yeah.
since 2018, some of these players were allegedly, since 2018, when this new government came in. So I want people to follow what's happening. And I think I saw a question from Camille Aline asking when the article that we had about Roland Bowen, when that article was printed, well, it was published. I'm sorry, published in Barbados today, and I'm sure Dave will find that information and put it up for you, Camille Aline. But back to Mr. Murray. Since 2018, some of these players were allegedly rewarded with consultancy and appointments. So people listen to the date. To listen to the date, 2018. What happened in 2018? We had the BLP government under Mia Motley. They went into power, and some of them were rewarded with consultancy and appointments. How should Barbadians interpret that? Is it possible that the same people who abused wiretapping in the past will have legal access to it now?
Uh, I think we are having a feedback somewhere
Yeah, there's
in the
a
system.
feedback coming in. I'm not sure from where.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, and that is the problem when we see people whose name had been linked with this dastardly, um, unprecedented move are being promoted, rewarded, installed. It offends people. It breeds distrust, mistrust, cynicism. I also see what kind of government is this. And that's why it says it's a don't care government. Does not care about it does not care, or it's tone deaf. They understand what the public is saying and feeling, because process matters. And to have there was a so-called independent advisory committee, for example. There are certain things about the bill which might not have come out in the press, but if you listen to the debate, where this, for example, this in the so-called the commissioner of police and a director of the anti-corruption entity unit, or what it's called, were supposed to be party to anywhere tapping that was going on. They were supposed to be informed about it, aware of it. And then they're supposed to be an independent authority selected by the minister, who would also set the fees, etc. That was what was proposed in the bill. And this has not, I haven't seen it in the press yet, maybe today. Mr. Thorne objected to it, saying that no politician should be involved in the process. This authority was supposed to be appointed by the minister. It was supposed to be terms and conditions paid that was determined by the minister. But Mr. Thorne objected and pointed out the danger of the politically involved and proposed that it should be appointed by the president and should report to the president. The government took the prime minister, when she spoke, agreed with that amendment. And it was, from what I recall, it was changed on the floor of House late in the day when they were passing the bill. So here was this government. You would think that if it had been aware of how the public feels about some of these personalities and the process and the political involvement in the original situation about which Mr. Gibbons wrote, would have taken steps to distance themselves. But they came to the whole, it was in the actual bill. What kind? I mean, they don't understand how the public sees these things. They don't understand how the public distrust them, and feel they're very susceptible and vulnerable when these things are, and would have taken. I'm surprised that something as significant and sensitive like that politically could have made try through the process into the written bill and come to the floor of the House and without anybody saying, well, let's change this. This is not good enough. I think we should change because no politician should be involved. And if it only makes you understand it, and that they've been spotted and agreed to by the government, that would also be a part of the list, and therefore the whole system will therefore be vulnerable to further contamination politically.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're going to have the attorney, Mr. Corey Greenwich, is going to be joining us at about 8:30 tonight, and he's going to look a little closer into that. and that particular section in the bill, and some changes that the prime minister also said that was going to happen there. So he's going to. I want to leave that for him to look at. But Mrs. Corbin, the article by Wade Gibbons alleges that there are links between government officials and known criminals. How credible you think these claims are, and how might such relationships affect who gets targeted by wiretaps? Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Okay.
Um, for me, this is new, Marcia. I've
Mm,
only had a couple of days to become prepared on this wiretapping, as well as to understand what they've called the interception of communication bill. I had to learn really fast. And therefore, it is like stepping into some terrain that I've got to learn more about. What I do would want to say is that how will this, I'm saying it more than a bill or an act, I'm saying it as a tool or a mechanism that can be misused and abused um, now legally, since if it becomes an act of
yes, that
parliament.
it would be. But the question is, as when we look at this article here, the article is saying that and it's making it made some references. It talked about the what happened on Good Friday, which caused a lot of people to believe that there is some connection with those in crime, and and the government. One could deduce that at the parliament, when parliament opened in 2018, when this government was first in government, when they were first being sworn into government, that there were criminal elements. The police has said that there were criminal elements that were who were in parliament. And so I think what Mr. Gibbons is saying, that some of, based on all of these things that we saw, that he is alleging that the government is in bed with criminals in this country. And my question is, if that is so, then will the intention, or those that the wiretapping is intended for, do we think that they would be the target then, or it will, they will, the intended, um you understand the question I'm getting? I know it's a funny kind of a question, because none of us, you're probably going to say you don't know really if the government is connected to crime, but if it is so, would it be difficult for the legal wiretapping to really be able to go towards the target of the wiretapping? Anybody can answer.
Uh, Marcia, if I might say that, I know you're going to have the authority law deal with it in detail, but based on what I saw and heard in the debate, the actual debate that passed the bill last Friday, my one area of hope of protecting the public from the system, the misuse system, is that the three-member independent advisory committee, supervisory committee authority, according with which should have been proposed that it be appointed by the minister, a political figure chosen by the minister, etc., is now going to be appointed by the president in his or her own wish. No, she's not supposed to consult, advise. He or she should be able to select from the society. Because there was a proposal, one coming from civil society secretary. He or she should now be able to select in their own due judgment, select persons who can therefore keep an eye on behalf of the entire society on the procedure, on the mechanism, to see that the structure and the procedures that are proposed for this authority, for this process, are followed and respected and adhered to. That's the only hope I can say. A system, the intentions of a system or a system can only be as good as those people who manage it and conduct it and operationalize it. So I'm saying that my one area of hope and optimism is that a properly chosen 3-member supervisory committee, advisory committees, right, authority, will be able to instill and make sure that the values, the ethos, the principles, the practice that are supposed to be surrounding this activity are maintained.
If I could,
Marcia.
Marcia, I really want to ask a couple questions because I will get back to that paragraph there about shadow characters later. But my first question is, what changes with this piece of legislation? Because notwithstanding what was suggested by the Prime Minister about illegal wiretapping, the issue for me is, with this legislation, who are you creating, or how are you creating a mechanism to move outside of what is considered the traditional need for wiretapping? Because in the past, the police, and this is something that can be expanded on, the police had mechanisms by which, where they had justifiable or real legitimate concerns about criminal activity, to go to the court, etc. Okay? From what I heard presented in your discussion with Mr. Greenwich on Friday night, there is significant room in this legislation to allow the powers that be, those persons who are authorized, to go and intercept, or wiretap people who are not necessarily criminal, but based on all that has been defined in there, can be lumped into something for expediency, and do it in a way that allows them to do it. Because what Glyne is describing is a monitoring mechanism. But before we get to the monitoring mechanism, we have to ask ourselves about what is to be monitored. So in essence, we are saying we have these systems in place. But what I'm seeing in this law, based on I think before you had to have a warrant. Now, if I recall correctly, you do not necessarily have to have a warrant up front. You can go and do your investigations, your interception, your wiretapping. And if you find information, if I am wrong, the lawyer can correct me later, or you, because you would have been listening to him.
Yeah.
If you find evidence that you should then prosecute, you can then go to the court and get a warrant to do further investigation. But they're already tapping into my phone talking to you about something that is not criminal at all, but simply because the government wants to understand. Now, your question about those persons, if we have a system where the process becomes contaminated, you are in fact interfering with the police officers in the same way that we heard about an interference on the Good Friday. So in essence, your concern is how, at least from my interpretation of what you said, how do we now seek to ensure, or how can they reassure us that because of this alleged fraternizing and so on, how do we now ensure that those persons, whoever they are, once they are criminal or whatever they're suspected, the police can do their job legitimately? But all that we are seeing discussed makes one wonder the extent to which two things happen. One, you reduce your ability to pursue the criminals in the way they should be pursued objectively. And two, you're creating a situation when where in fact you may be less concerned about the criminal and more about persecuting your political opponents or persons you
Right.
perceive to be threats to you, or you just want malicious in the business.
Correct. And so that's where I was going with that line of questioning, because if the government, Rose, has ties to criminal elements, the question is there a danger if the government has ties to criminal elements, is there a danger that the law could be weaponized against ordinary citizens, journalists, political opponents instead of gang leaders? There are several Caribbean countries I was researching where that has been done. So, Rose, as we wind down this discussion, having read the article, and I deliberately wanted us to pay attention to the article. I know it feels like we're you know we're I didn't want us to speak around the article. I wanted to speak about the contents of the article. There's a particular reason why I want that, because I want Barbadians to really take the time to understand what they have read. What they would have read is that, according to the court documents, there were people who were, some of them political opponents, some of them from the same political party, BLP, DLP, all kinds of people, prime ministers, former prime ministers, all kinds of people were being illegally tapped. And the reality is that there are people that were part of that. There were perpetrators who are still working in government as consultants, all kinds of different things, different job descriptions. They're still there in government. The question is, Rose, what should citizens do? What can the ordinary, with knowing this, having this knowledge, what can ordinary people do concerning this bill? This bill is going to the Senate on Wednesday, Rose. What can ordinary the ordinary citizen, Barbadian citizen, do concerning this bill, which is about to be passed on Wednesday?
Yes, Marcia, I'm glad for the opportunity to respond to that. I would want to see more than the token or tokenism thrown at us on Friday when the Prime Minister came in, and basically it was Glyne. You alluded to it. It was like, oh, the leader of the opposition, if he had stayed around, he would have heard that I am going, and I made a note here. I will amend the bill in Parliament that 3 persons will be appointed by the President on that monitoring committee, so that it can be done without consultation by the PM or the leader of opposition, to ensure no political interference. That is what was said. I wrote it down. We are requesting from my end more than tokenism, saying, well, if you ask for that, we're going to give you that. But there is more, Glyne and Maxine and Marcia and listeners, in that bill that needs to be addressed and be offered in the best interests of the public at large, the Barbadian citizens. Never mind, the president is now being given that autonomy and power. We do know that people can maneuver and work around to do what they want to do, legally and or illegally. What I would want also is, as we did with the cybercrime bill, get before the upper Senate, upper house signs off on it, that there be a committee. I'm hearing that there were 2 stakeholders meetings. I'm not aware of it. The leader of opposition said he wasn't aware where were they held, who were the stakeholders. Have that kind of body setup as was done with the cybercrime bill to hear submissions and concerns from the general public and pull it back. It was badly drafted. There were too many errors when it went to the committee, Glyne and Maxine and the public. When it went to the committee, there were too many typographical errors that the AG pointed out, repetitions that had to be deleted. It was not a tidy draft. It seemed to be hurried, and I would want the public to request that it be pulled back and that there be a committee set up giving the public the opportunity, whether virtually or in person, to speak to this particular Interception of Communication Bill 2025. It cannot go as it is, and it cannot exist as it is. Do not say that it doesn't concern me. I am not involved in criminal activity. It has long reach, and you may say something that can easily be easily shaped into something that is anti-government and put you at risk. So that is my take. Pull it back, revisit it, recalibrate on it, redesign it, but in the interest of the Barbadian public. And don't tell me also, and I'll wrap up here, as the AG keeps saying, that Barbados has come to the party too late. They're no party. We're not trying to keep up with the other countries that have this act as the legislation passed. So you cited other countries. What have you learned from those countries? What do they their legislation looks like? Don't tell us we are playing cash up and you want to tick a box and move on. I think that it will engender mistrust, and we want something that's more transparent. And don't come to us, Madam Prime Minister, and say, oh, you asked for this, we're going to give you this, so that it would look like, you're responding to people. And your own people out there on Facebook are talking about reasonableness, that the Prime Minister is being reasonable to set up this monitoring committee, where we are asking for more of that reasonableness in this particular very important piece of legislation that you're seeking to pass. That's my passionate, may say, contribution on that one. What can we do? That's what I'm asking for.
Hello?
Marcia, you are muted.
Hello?
We're not hearing Marcia. I think
I
she may
know.
be muted.
Sorry, guys, we're having a whole set of technical issues that's going on,
Okay.
but I'm pressing on.
Wiretapping?
I don't know, but a lot of stuff is happening. And so
Maxine, you're being tricky.
but listen, Mr. Murray, what other forms of protest or public engagement do you think are most effective in stopping or amending laws like this? I mean, when we think that this is going to the Senate on Wednesday, what do you suggest? We have 3 minutes.
I suggest, Rose, you have to give me more than 3 minutes, for Rose had more than that, if I might say. I'm not being thing, but I just feel I have enough to say.
I actually don't have it, so I can only give you that time.
Okay, but no, you're the boss of the time, so anyhow, I will make as much use as I can of the time.
Yes.
what the manner, now we talk about process. Maxine might be able to tell you this, but I do not. This bill was supposed to be on Parliament's website. I'm not sure how long it was there for. But I'm saying my whole thing is that placing a bill number on a website, no matter how long, is not enough to satisfy to engage the public. There has to be a public education information program. In days past, the GIS would have sat down and wrote a story about what the bill is coming up, what it implies, and get the public interested. Not even the press does that nowadays. I think some of them say they get the notice of the bills too late. But the point is that there's a vacuum of information, and therefore that vacuum, based on the past history of this issue of wiretapping, the public will naturally gravitate towards the because they're suspicious. And the government therefore is bringing that on its side because it's deliberately, to my mind, failing and refusing to let the public. This could have been raised at one of the Ideas Forum or speech to let the public know what they're doing as regards crime. But what I think happened, if you look at the politics of it, I think this was tacked on to my mind, to those measures dealing with the increase in the salaries of the police and the special constable. They wanted to show they were doing something positive and strong in the crime fight, coming on the heels of the very, to me, impactful and work on the crime commission by the Democratic Party, which caught the public's attention. I think this was trying to catch up because they were back raised they were jumped by the Democratic Party's presentation to the public, and therefore I thought they had to do something to try to catch up. But otherwise, there would be no need to try to rush.
Yes.
Why rush it? I think they had to show that they were strong. They were fighting. They combined these things in a rush, man. The thing was replete with errors and etc. As Rose also pointed out. So I'm saying that is what to me that is the politics of it. Politics, parties and politics can still very much part of this process. So they have to show that they were in the game too. They were up there and cash. Even though the Prime Minister said she's trying to get a copy of the report she wants to read on the weekend, the point is that it had caught their notice, had caught the public's attention. I think they were trying to play catch up. But I think may just make one observation. Speaking of that bill, where the Attorney General Dale Marshall, Minister Wilfred Abraham, Minister of Home Affairs, and the Prime Minister. Where was Minister? We talk about crime and fighting crime. Where was Minister Kurt Humphrey? Why was he not in that making his presentation to the public? We are yet to hear from him in a comprehensive, structured, coherent way. What are his thoughts, plans, intentions on fighting crime? Right? On Tuesday, Minister Chad Blackman is supposed to make a ministerial statement on educational transformation, right? On Tuesday. But where is the Minister Humphrey, silent partner in there? I think that is something that we should not settle for. Come and bring the public in, inform the public, and bring the public into your confidence.
What is happening? Thank you, Mr. Murray. Ms. McClean, I know we're out of time, but I still want to know, is there anything you would add of what the public can do? Wednesday is coming up, when this bill is slated to be before the Senate on Wednesday. What are your thoughts?
I think that Barbadians should bombard their members of parliament and the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. And I'll tell you why quickly. I think it's important. Glyne asked about the history of this bill. I'm looking at the Barbados Parliament website. Notice was given on this bill on the 29th of July. The first reading took place on the 29th of July, which meant they just announced it in Parliament, according to what's here. It first appeared in the official gazette, where Barbadians will get to see it, on the 7th of August.
Wow.
In essence, this went in the gazette on the 7th of August. It was second reading, which meant it was debated in Parliament on the 8th, the next day.
Mm-hmm.
The committee stage that which Rose spoke to was the same day, and I want to say that why they need to petition government is that the Attorney General needs to be called out on this. He is the person who signs off on legislation saying that it is ready to be debated. He should have read it, picked up all those errors and all of those things, and see. So in other words, he did not do his job. And so the point is, the public did not have adequate time to look at this. And I heard this notion about consultation. Consultation with whom? I would like to hear from the Bar Association. I would like to hear from those bodies in the private sector. I would like to hear from the unions and so on. All the stakeholders, because this affects everybody.
Yes.
And we all need to call on government. And I want to say quickly, Marcia, I know you say out of time, but I just want to remind Barbadians that were it not for Mr. Thorne in Parliament, Glyne, did you say that about 3 people spoke on the bill?
Yeah.
This is a serious bill that we should have heard from MPs. This is not something that you quickly, well, they want to do it that way, quickly rush it through, which is their strategy. Very few people speak on it. And important voices that you should hear, you did not hear. So I would say to the Prime Minister via this mechanism, the Attorney General, and to the government of Barbados and all who are listening, the process of consultation was not followed, we weren't given the opportunity. The quality of what we heard from government was lacking, and therefore it would be a travesty to rush this through the Senate. They tried it with previous legislation, which really started all of how we're dealing with these issues. It is not fair to the public, and if they don't have anything to hide, they can postpone it. My last comment is that my understanding.
Last half a minute. I really am.
You're stopping me. And let me make this point. Yeah. I think it's important. There already exist mechanisms for the police to wiretap legally. So why are they rushing something like this when, in fact, when we look at it, the focus is not necessarily on enhancing that, but creating opportunities to go after the public.
Yes. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, panelists. We'll have time in the week to continue some of these points, especially this last point on what we do going forward. Thank you all so much for joining. We're going to end this segment, and I trust that we would have cemented in the minds of the people exactly what would have happened years ago, and how that affects us now and how we see this present bill. Thank you all so much. God bless you, and hope you can join us sometime in the week. God bless.